So, you wanna main D.Va.
Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level, baby. Second level.
What's up guys, Tom from Level 2 here. Today we'll be going over what it takes to command the young Korean mech pilot D.Va in the game Overwatch. D.Va is a fan favorite tank character and has a level of cuteness that most of us can only strive to achieve.
Winky face.
She also happens to be one of the most devastating characters in the game and is continually picked for the meta regardless of the buffs and nerfs going on around her. D.Va's ability list is key to survival in the world of Overwatch, and luckily for us, friend of the show and D.Va main himself, TigratoPower, has compiled some advice around using the gamer girl to D.Va bomb your way to victory. Tigrato is one of the higher ranked D.Va players out there, but the advice here is for people mostly new to the character or experimenting with her skill set to improve their overall SR. Massive thanks to Tigrato for writing this guide and donating the footage. If you have a question for him about anything that you see or hear here, drop a comment below. Now then, let's get started with an overview, shall we?
Let's do this!
D.Va is a mech pilot who has two modes. D.Va spawns inside her mech, and most of your time playing her you should be in this mode. While in mech, D.Va is able to use the fusion cannons, two shotgun-like hit scan cannons that fire with a wide spread. The fusion cannons are more effective the closer the target is, so it is generally recommended that they be used at close to mid ranges. Aside from the fusion cannons, D.Va's mech is equipped with the boost, defense matrix, and micro missile abilities, as well as the ultimate ability self-destruct. These abilities will be covered later on. If your health drops to 0 in mech mode, D.Va will automatically eject into pilot mode, popularly referred to as Baby D.Va, whose kit consists of the light pistol and the ultimate ability Call Mech. If you get popped out of your mech, the best bet is to put space in between you and the enemy, move to your team's back line, and lay down damage on an easy target. This way, your supports can keep you alive while you build ult charge to call in a new mech. D.Va's light pistol is a weapon that fires relatively slow projectiles, so be sure to lead your shots if an enemy is moving across your screen. Repeated headshots will do decent damage, but don't get greedy. Remeching is your top priority. Once you're set to remech, get into cover if possible and call it in. If you're out in the open, call down the mech and hope for the best. It is extremely important not to linger in pilot mode longer than you have to. So one of the big keys to playing as D.Va is getting into your mech and staying in it. In order to do that, you must learn how to use the abilities of mech mode. When D.Va is in her mech, she's able to use the boost ability, which gives her great mobility and on its own allows her to escape tough situations, close in on an enemy, reach higher ground for positional advantage, or to reach objectives more quickly. The boost ability can also be used in combination with the fusion cannons, the defense matrix, and micro missile abilities, and also D.Va's ultimate ability self-destruct, but we'll cover that a little later. It is also important to remember that you can stop boosting at any time during the ability's duration by pressing the boost button again. This will allow you to reach your target without overshooting it. As for using the boost on its own, it's extremely important to know how and when to use it. During setups for matches or while preparing for enemy advances, the boost ability can be used to gain positional advantage over the enemy by allowing D.Va to reach higher ground, also allowing Mercy players to reach you with their Guardian Angel ability. This allows you to then drop down and surprise the enemy from above and or behind, and if your teammates capitalize on this, expect good results. In combat, it is generally advisable to conserve the boost ability for one of two situations. If you're feeling the pressure, if there's a big ult coming your way, or you generally just need to back away from the enemy. Use your boost to get out of danger and or closer to your teammates. Your boost could also allow your Mercy to avoid certain death with her Guardian Angel ability in this case. Be careful not to get stuck on an obstacle or run out of or cancel a boost over a gap, or else you may find yourself back at spawn wondering what went wrong. The boost ability can also be used to charge the enemy, closing the gap between you and them so you can really put the pressure on them, get some key picks, and create space for your team to advance. If you have the enemy on the run, close the gap and finish them off. If someone on your team has grabbed a key pick, fly in and put the heat on the enemy, forcing them to retreat or face certain doom. Remember that you can cancel the boost early if you're coming in too hot. If you fly too far in, you may find yourself pressing an advantage that could be your downfall. Lastly, if you do find yourself back at spawn, you can use the boost to get back into the action quickly, but be sure not to leave your team behind or leave yourself without an escape option, or else you may find yourself alone, surrounded by enemies, and extremely vulnerable. The Defense Matrix is another key ability of D.Va's kit in mech, allowing her to delete projectiles within an area in front of her. This ability can be used to protect you and your teammates from incoming fire, and even some ults for a short time. The Defense Matrix cannot be used in combination with your fusion cannons, but it can be used in combination with boost and micro missiles. There are two ways to use the Matrix effectively. Pulsing the Defense Matrix involves using the ability in short bursts in order to conserve your ability bank while also deleting incoming projectiles like Pharah rockets, Moira orbs, Reinhardt fire strikes, etc. A well-timed Matrix pulse could also be used to delete ults such as Hanzo's Dragon Strike, if you are close enough to catch the arrow, Mei's Blizzard, and Zarya's Graviton Surge. These are often difficult to catch, but if you succeed, you could eliminate an enemy's ult entirely and tip the odds in favor of your team. When should you pulse the Defense Matrix? Well, it's best to use pulsing at range, but in close quarters, a good pulse may just cancel an ult. Matrix pulsing is also recommended when an ally is hooked by Roadhog. A properly timed pulse will delete the follow-up shrapnel blast and possibly save a teammate from certain doom. Also keep in mind that repeated pulses will drain your ability bank quickly. Space out pulses wherever possible. While the pulsing technique is powerful when used correctly, sometimes you may need to use the Defense Matrix continuously with a Matrix burn. Burning the Matrix depletes the ability's bank quickly, but can be used to protect yourself and teammates from sustained damage during advances and retreats or while holding an objective. A Defense Matrix burn can also be used to charge forward with boost with little risk of damage. Defense Matrix burns can absorb ults such as Reaper's Death Blossom, Pharah's Rocket Barrage, and Soldier's Tactical Visor. Matrix burns are also effective against McCree's Deadeye ultimate, as you cannot be sure when McCree will pop the ability even after it has begun. If you see any of these heroes sneaking around, be sure to have the Matrix saved up in case any of these ults are popped. Your team will thank you. Another good use of Matrix Burn is to protect a Mercy as she resurrects a teammate out in the open, allowing Mercy to work without harm and bringing a teammate back into the fight. Keep in mind that this ability can also be used in combination with boost and micro missiles. Keeping this in mind, it is useful to use micro missiles when cancelling an enemy ult with a burn, dealing damage on them while protecting you and your team. Activating the micro missile ability launches a volley of unguided missiles from shoulder-mounted launchers on the D.Va mech. This ability is all about dealing damage and can be used in two main ways. In combination with the fusion cannons, the micro missiles can be used to deal huge damage to shields and enemies. This is especially effective when charging forward with the boost ability. Alternatively, the missiles can be used in combination with the defense matrix in order to deal damage while protecting yourself and teammates. This is especially effective when cancelling enemy ults, or when charging enemies such as bastions in order to deal damage while closing the gap to the enemy. The missiles can also be used on their own, and this is mostly effective at long ranges where the fusion cannons are mostly ineffective. The missiles do travel relatively slowly though, so you may need to lead your shots in order to hit your mark. D.Va's ultimate ability in mech is the self-destruct. Triggering it automatically ejects D.Va out of her mech while simultaneously initiating a self-destruct sequence that triggers a large explosion after a short time. This ability, if used properly, can take out an entire team in one go. After the explosion occurs, Baby D.Va will automatically receive her Call Mech ult charge. Characters with shield abilities like Reinhardt, Mei, Orisa, Zarya, Symmetra, etc. can save themselves from a destruct, which is important to keep in mind when you're using it. There are 3 techniques I like to use when it comes to using the self-destruct ability. First, ground launch. The ground launch is when you look towards your intended target, activate your boosters, and initiate the destruct. The mech will travel towards your target quickly and then detonate. This technique is simple to execute, but the key to mastering it is the setup. Before you ground launch a destruct, try to do 2 things. Firstly, try to tease out any abilities that could block your destruct. Coordinate with your team to force out abilities like Zarya's bubbles, Mei's ice wall, Orisa and Winston's shields. When a Reinhardt is present, try to destroy his shield or separate him from his team before ground launching. At the same time, when you are teasing out abilities, you're going to want to put the enemy into an area where they cannot hide from the destruction from the explosion. Areas with little cover and few escape routes are ideal, such as the open area around the first payload checkpoint of King's Row. The name of the game is placing the destruct somewhere where there is the littlest chance of escape for the enemy. Master this, and you'll be a force to be reckoned with. The second technique I like to use is what I call the Destruct Throw. This involves launching the mech up into the air with your boosters and again initiating a destruct sequence. This technique is good when you're in a tight spot or defending or attacking an objective, and can prove difficult for the enemy to block. Throwing the mech up into the air makes it more difficult for the enemy to predict where it will actually destruct, if they even notice it, and can also eliminate the possibility of low walls blocking the explosion. This technique is especially effective when defending objectives, as even if no kills come out of it, it can deny the enemy access to an objective, force them away from the target area, and or buy your team time to eliminate the threat. The third technique I like to use involves simply initiating a destruct in place. This technique generally does not produce many kills, but it is useful for denying areas from the enemy team or simply just to get back in your mech quickly. This technique is especially useful to prevent the enemy from forcing overtime at the end of a match when you are defending an objective. Initiating a destruct on top of an objective will force the enemy to either leave the objective or burn abilities to stay on it. Either way, it can give your team the upper hand in the final seconds of a match, or just buy time when holding an objective at any other time. Destructing in place can also be useful when you're about to lose your mech. When your mech is destroyed and you have a destruct, there is a small window of time you have while ejecting to initiate a destruct. This once again denies the enemy access to where you are, but also allows you to get back in your mech with little risk. This is generally only recommended when you have the advantage in a teamfight and need to keep up the pressure, or when you need to force an overtime in order to win a match. When it comes to using the self-destruct, it is important to know when to use it. Don't just use the ult every time you get it. Save your destruct for crucial moments, as mentioned in the techniques used above. D.Va's other abilities get work done for your team if used correctly. Now that we have covered the abilities and how to use them, let's cover how to play D.Va in general. When playing as D.Va, try to place yourself close to or in front of your supports. Ideally, you will have a shield tank at your side who will protect you from damage and allow you to save your defense matrix for emergencies. If your supports come under pressure, being close to them allows you to respond quickly to eliminate whoever is attacking them or force them to retreat. While your shield tank is protecting your team, put pressure on anyone in front of you. Try to break barriers, force the enemy back, and pump out that damage. Once your team makes some key picks, you're able to easily charge the enemy and press the advantage whether you are attacking or defending. One of the keys to playing D.Va is working with your team and playing the objective. D.Va is a hero you can get some excellent individual plays with, but those heroics will mean nothing if your team isn't there to capitalize, or if it doesn't help secure objectives. If you coordinate with your team and support them, you'll get a lot done and still get more than enough good plays to satisfy your ego. Possibly the most important part of playing D.Va is just to have fun. Take it easy. You're playing a 19-year-old gamer girl with a serious dose of attitude who pilots a mech with big guns, missiles, and the ability to let loose some seriously big explosions. Just go out there and have some fun.
Boom shakalaka, she's on fire!
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. We really hope this guide was useful for you. If you have any comments for Tigrato, please leave them in the comments below, or if you want to see some other heroes that you'd like to get a full guide on, you can leave those there too. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, welcome to the second level.
Game, but they saying welcome to the second level.